In this video, we're going to address case 5, which is the last of the 5 fields in the Wells Fargo checking data file. So in what you see on the screen is the results of the last video when we finally implemented the check handling field 4 logic. So now let's move on to case 5 and figure out how to store the description. Description is a character array, max line length plus 1. So since it's a character array, we can use the same technique as the other character arrays. We'll string copy into transaction.description from PCH, and we do the plus 1 because we want to avoid the leading double quote. And then the maximum number of characters we want to copy is max line length, so we don't overrun the buffer. And then we will set the last offset in transaction.description field to a null character, and that's where this max line length comes in handy again. Okay, so that sets it to null. And then, so now I want to just print out transaction.description so I can see what I copied in there and does it look right. Let's compile it, run it. Okay, so now we see case 5. That's the original field value with the surrounded in double quotes. And now we've pulled out the description, but notice that we have a double quote at the tail end of the description. So we don't want that there. We want to get rid of that. So let's go put some code in to handle that. So let's say right here, I want to search for, I want to find and replace that double quote at the end. So I'm going to declare integer I equals 0. And then I will create a while loop, and I will search from the beginning of the description field, that's starting at offset 0, and I'll test for not equal to double quote. So theoretically, I'll scan the entire field until I find the double quote character, and then I will stop. So that's the theory. And then when I stop, I'm going to print out kind of a debug statement so I can see what was I equal to when I stopped. And then kind of just show what the underlying C syntax is that I'm trying to figure out here. Say it's equal to that. And then I'll put an I, and a txn.desc at sub I. Okay, so that's my little debug statement. And then I want to terminate the overwrite the double quote character with the null, and that creates a new end of string. Let's see if this works for me. So I'll go ahead and I'll run it, and oh, there's something we haven't seen before. Notice down here, we just had a program crash. So a segmentation fault of our executable, that means that something went wrong with our code and we tried to do something illegal. We tried to either look at or write to memory that's outside of our permission. The operating system said, you're trying to write to some area in memory that you're not allowed to write to. So something went very wrong. And now the question is, how do we find out what went wrong? So I have no idea where the program bombed. So we now need to figure out how to debug this. So what goes through my mind is, gee, I wonder where in the file we blew up with a segmentation fault. And so I think what I'll do is I will print out line numbers. So let's go create a line number variable. I'll do it here outside of the main while loop that's reading the records, and I'll say int line num equals 0. And I initialize it to 0 because I want to increment it every time I read a line. The very first thing after reading a line, I'm going to increment it before I do any other processing. So I'll say plus line num. Okay, so that'll keep track of every line that we read. And then, where am I going to print the line number? Well, I guess since I know that we're blowing up in case 5, I'll go ahead and print the line number here. I'm not sure this makes sense, but let me just put it here for now. Okay, I'll put it there before the case 5 statement. I think I'll say line number, like that. Okay, hopefully that'll give us some kind of feedback as to where we're blowing up. Okay, good. So it looks like when we get to line number 16 that we have the segmentation fault. And so what's special about this one? It's got 1899 West Malvern ATM withdrawal. Okay, so now let's take a look at the Wells Fargo data file at line 16. And it says Malvern, and that's the last thing it printed. Oh, look at this here. We have an embedded comma. So since, see, we have a comma that's inside the double quotes. Okay. So now if we go back and look at our code and we find string talk, oh, there it is. I'll find it. Boom. Okay, so at line 57, you can see we're calling string talk. After getting a line, we call string talk and we break on the comma. The next time we call string talk is down here at line 104. And that's worked for case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4. But now here we are working on case 5, and all of a sudden something blows up. So I guess what I can do is I can say, well, let's try this. If token num is less than 5, because it worked for the first 4, then I'm going to make this call. Else, the call to PCH is going to be string talk null. And let's see, what else can I use as a field separator so that I don't break on the comma? Well, since description is the last field in a line, then it doesn't matter if there's an embedded comma. So we lucked out on that one. So I'll tell it to read up until it sees a new line. Let's see if this keeps us from blowing up. So basically, 104 says if the token number is less than 5, which means for case 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's going to break on the comma as the field separator. But when token number gets to 5, it's going to break on the new line, not on the comma. And that should allow us to handle our embedded comma. Let's see if this works. Oh, look at this. We didn't blow up. We got to line 213. So that solved that little problem. This line here has a trailing double quote. This line here is kind of my debug output to say that the trailing double quote is at offset 91, but we haven't printed the line. I haven't printed the line after replacing the double quote with a null. So I just simply need to go to line 97 and say printf %s and txn.description, and theoretically now we have a nice clean no trailing double quote. So I'm going to get rid of the case 5 printout, and I'm going to get rid of these other 2 lines of debug output. So let's see how this looks when I get rid of all that extra printing. So no line 88, no line 90, and no line 93. Okay, I think that's a wrap. I'm going to look for a check number, and here it is. So we see the date, the amount, the cleared flag, the check number, and the description.